For those of you guys that have been following the Siteshed podcast and in our community for a while, you know we do enjoy doing some pretty darn cool things. Our Learn and Travel program has been around for a few years now, and we effectively take trade business owners across to amazing destinations where we can either surf or ski. So the last few years we have been traveling to New Zealand on ski, learn and ski programs. We've been traveling to Japan earlier this year on a ski and learn program. That's 2018. And then we also traveled to the Maldives for our first surf and learn in 2018. However, in February of 2019, we are holding yet another ski and learn, and it's going to be in the lovely Furano in Japan. And Furano is basically up in the Hokkaido region, which is powder heaven. So for all of you guys that want to come along to that, and I thoroughly encourage you to, because they are such cool events, they are just the best. It's a tax-deductible trip. You get to go skiing or surfing in amazing locations. And this time we're heading to one of the best powder resorts on the planet. So guys, head across to the siteshed.com/events and you can see the link there to the upcoming event. It's limited tickets, guys. Obviously, we've got to secure hotels and that kind of thing, so we can only take so many. We launched it a couple of days back and it is already filling up. So if you want to come, I thoroughly encourage you to get in there and get your deposit secured. If you've got any questions, you can hit us up on the Facebook group. Hello there and welcome back to part 2 of the Creating a $1 Million Design Build Business. I'm joined today on the microphone by my co-host in this series, Mr. Farres Elsabbagh, and we are talking about stop working for free, time is money. It's the second part of the conversation. So the first episode was building won't make you $1 million, marketing will. Make sure you go and check that one out because, as always, this episode will tie into it. This is a fantastic episode. It is super relevant to any of you guys out there that are currently doing proposals and you want to get paid for it. So I know that's relevant to a lot of you guys, especially builders and things like that are doing project-based work. So make sure you check it out. If you guys value this and you get something out of it, please leave us some comments, or better still, head over to iTunes and leave us a review. That would be very much appreciated. But failing that, guys, let's just jump in here. I know you're going to get a lot of value out of this episode. If you've got any follow-up questions, head across to the Facebook private group. You can ask your questions within there. Farres is actually in that community. He's very active and always willing to help. So guys, head across there and make sure that you get your questions answered and become part of the conversation. All right, that's all from me. So let's jump right in.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Siteshed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello, Siteshedders, and welcome back. This is the second episode of the Creating a $1 Million Design Build Business. I'm here speaking with my co-host, Farres Elsabbagh from Ottawa General Contractors and Canadian General Contractors, all the way from downtown Ottawa. How are you, mate?
Good. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, very good. Very good. So for the listeners out there, this is the second episode. The first episode, we were talking about how building won't make you $1 million, marketing will. There was some really interesting stuff there. And for the listeners out there, I suppose Farres has certainly got some runs on the board when it comes to building a profitable business. His business turns 15 to 20 million bucks a year. And a lot of that comes down to his dedication to marketing. So I would thoroughly encourage you to go back and listen to that one if you haven't, because in this episode, we're talking about stop working for free, time is money. And it certainly will stem on from the previous episode. Farres, thank you for joining us once again. That first episode was fantastic. I know we're going to get a lot of good feedback from that, and hopefully a lot of resistance with people asking questions and wanting to know a little bit more nitty gritty. So I warn you, you may have to come back on the show to answer some of those. However, in this episode, we're talking about stop working for free, and this is something that I certainly see relevant with a lot of our builder clients. It's a lot of conversations I've seen within our group and within another couple of communities that I'm in, where builders are trying to now start charging for their bids and charging for quotes and proposals and that kind of stuff. I know you do that. You've got an excellent framework around it, so I'm sure the listeners out there are going to grab this one by the horns, so to speak. Are we talking here to, again, I'm guessing this is really directed at the business owner, or maybe not the owner, but the person certainly that is responsible for the quoting process, right?
Yeah, so it'd be the business owner would probably find this very insightful. The estimator, the salesperson. In my company, we call them project consultants.
Okay. So I guess really the bottom line here is what we're talking about, again, ties into what we spoke about in the last episode a little bit, but it's really a qualification process. Well, it's as much as a disqualification process, in my experience, as it is a qualification process, because when we're talking about going down that path of charging for quotes and charging for bids, et cetera, the people that are typically the ones that are going to run from that are probably the ones that you don't want to be working for anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So is that how you look at it? Is it really like a qualification, disqualification step in your sales process?
I mean, that's definitely the first part. After the lead comes in, of course, being able to qualify a lead to make sure that your time's not being wasted is obviously very important. But, I think everybody can relate in one of their biggest pain points being putting together these estimates and then losing these jobs or not necessarily being guaranteed a job from all this time going into building these estimates, right? Yeah. And these estimates and these scopes of work, like some of them can take hours, right? So like to put in hours of time to potentially not result in business is devastating. And this is not how you grow a business. Yeah. Right. So like as an example, one of my offices, the payroll is 80, 90 grand a month. Yeah. So if 80 or $90,000 or if my whole staff didn't generate business or didn't do anything for a month, I just lost 80 or 90 grand. So it's like we had to find out how we stop doing the traditional giving a free estimate process. And what we realized is instead of trying to change a whole industry or how consumers really want to approach this industry, we just created processes to almost make them feel like they're getting the illusion of a free estimate. Right. And the way that works is, I'll give you kind of like a quick example of what a site consultation would look like. So our project consultants would go into the client's home. They'd take a few measurements, because if you don't take measurements, clients be wondering why you didn't take measurements, although it's not really relevant at that point. They'll take a few measurements, but what they do is they actually go back to the office and put together a 4 or 5 page project proposal that's actually templated. Right. So like this project proposals, it's all templates. It talks about how great of a company we are, our warranty, our sales process. And we just have this one small section that gives a brief description of what happens in the project, but we give a range. So anybody can literally anybody that's experienced in this industry can step in a room and give somebody a rough range of what to expect to pay. Right. So as an example, if I'm going to go in and take a look at a kitchen, I probably know that a kitchen is going to cost somewhere between $20,000 to $50,000. But what I tell them in when they come and visit us in the office that, we expect your project to come into between $20,000 to $50,000, but our goal is to get them in design. Right. Right. So with us getting them in design, we actually get them now to pay us to organize their project. Okay. You get that? You see how that shift happens? So instead of spending 3 or 4 hours, we are now spending 20 minutes, and we are getting one step closer to the big sale. Okay. And so once you've got them to the point where, okay, they need design, what if they have design? So if you've got a design, then we'll put together a scope of work. But do you charge for that? Yes. So we do charge for that. So we charge, depending on the size of the scope of work, about $1,000. Yep. But if it's a straightforward scope of work, if it's like a what we call a re-and-re, like a remove and replace, basically just an update of the finishes, like there are no major mechanicals or electrical or plumbing moving, then we could probably put together those scopes of work really easily with a design in 10 or 20 minutes, right? So our kind of objective is don't spend more than 20 minutes for free. Right. Okay. And if we can do that, then we'll do it. If not, then we try to get them to spend money in organizing the project, right? Like a few things happen there, right? So not only are you not working for free, but now you can like reasonably put a lot of effort into understanding the project. Of course. I truly don't think that they say contractors have a bad name, but I don't think that it's the contractors that are at fault for having a bad name in the industry.
No.
I really think it's the misconception of how consumers feel like they should operate their sales process. Like a lot of these guys, like I mentioned in the last episode, they're spending an hour with the client, taking a few measurements to put together this scope of work that typically takes us a few weeks to be able to find out all the little details.
Yeah.
Right. And then clients are getting pissed because oh, well, you should have known, you were here. But he only spent an hour with you. How does he really know how much details can you really capture in an hour?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I know one of our clients, one of my mates here in Sydney, he's a builder, and he's went through a similar process where he was, they do residential building, a lot of renovations, extensions, that kind of thing, and they're really, really good at it. Of course, when you're doing renovations, extensions, one of the bottlenecks that you come up against is, of course, the fact that you haven't necessarily built the original house, so you may not know, things like foundations, the way the things are built, the structural side of things. And you don't go ripping holes in houses to find that stuff out at the quoting process. That's the kind of thing you find out, when you're in the middle of the job. So he has to be very clever with the way that he communicates that initially, and it's communication. Like, you can call it terms and conditions, you can call it clauses, you can call it whatever you freaking want, but at the end of the day, like, it's the way that you communicate, I suppose, that process and how you deliver on your job that really makes the difference. Because if you can say to your customer, up front, and he went through this process, well, look, we don't know what's behind the walls, and the purpose of us providing you this proposal is, of course, to give you an honest estimate of what we think it's going to be like. But if we run into, if we have to be digging this house or digging your new drainage in rock or whatever it might be, then of course, it's going to take a lot more time, and that's going to cost more money and all that kind of stuff. They communicate that clearly, and they take their time throughout the initial stages, which then, of course, it comes back around. It's like a boomerang, right? Like when things do arise, the customer's not surprised because they've spent the time, they've invested that time in communicating it. But one of the things that they met resistance with was because they were spending so much time. Like, it might take them 3-4 days to put I won't even say a quote. It was really like a project outline together for the client, and often the client would just take this project outline and then they'll go to the next contractor and say, well, you guys came in cheaper, here's the project outline from the other builder, go and do it. And it was like, what? Like, it took us 3 days to do this, we weren't getting paid for it. So they started charging for it, and it's been great since they did it, because like you said in the previous episode, if you can get a commitment from your customer, or well, at that point they're a customer, it really makes it puts a vested interest in them, even subconsciously, like they're committed. It's a commitment, and like they found that was a really good turning point for their business, because once they started charging for them, it really did filter out. First of all, it filtered out the people that weren't willing to pay, but then it also put them in a position, like you just said, where they've got more resource, they've got some money in the bank, so they can spend the time on doing it properly. And they can deliver this amazing proposal and this project outline, which really is a run by play-by-play on the actual job. And the way they sell it, I don't know if you do the same thing, but they say, well, listen, if you decide that you don't want to use this, that's fine. You've still got this amazing project outline. But if you do want to use this, then we'll just deduct that off the cost of your project. And so it's kind of like a win-win for the client.
Yeah, that's funny actually, because we do the same exact thing, but we use, so our scopes of work. So I guess the project outline that you're referring to, we call it scopes of work.
Yeah.
They go hand in hand with the architectural plans that we put together.
Okay.
So our architectural plans enable us to produce this fixed cost scope of work. So they kind of get both those there. So the design part, we didn't become a design build company because we thought it was cool to be designers as well. But we did it because it helped us with our sales. It helped us organize these projects, but most importantly, it helped us stop doing free work. And just like you mentioned, we tell them, look, after the design process is done, like, you get the scope of work now. This we call the scope of work like Colonel Sanders' magic recipe kind of thing, like secret recipe. It's like because we're very detailed with our scopes of work. It's not like one of those you draw up on QuickBooks with like 5 lines. Like, they're like 10, 20, 30 pages. Like, you can literally take that scope of work, and it's broken down by construction divisions, by each trade, and you can like literally probably manage it yourself.
Yeah.
But and we do the same thing. So if they decide not to move forward on the build, they paid for a design and a scope of work. If they decide not to not move forward on the build, at least they've got this now that they can work with. And if they do, we just credit them what they paid onto their build.
Yeah.
So like a few important things happen there, and we call it pot committed. I mean, like at the end of the day, when you're spending $3 or $4 grand, you're not really pot committed when you're considering spending 100, 200, or 300 grand.
Right.
But it's funny because a lot of times we hear clients saying, well, I just really want to be sure I'm going forward with you guys on design, because whoever I'm going with on design, I'm actually going to go with on the build.
Yeah.
So like and we hear that very a lot. So we know that typically these prospects know that if they're going to be spending a few $1,000s with us, they really intend to move forward on the build.
Yeah, and I think as well, if clients are willing to spend, a few grand up front or a couple of grand up front or whatever it is, like typically the big investment will come as a result of, getting finance and all that kind of stuff. I mean, not many people, will sit there having 100 grand, 200 grand in the bank. So like that's kind of the first step of their commitment. And that, that's a pretty big chunk, that's the kind of $3 grand, that's the kind of stuff that people would have sitting in their bank. And so, that is a big commitment, when you look at it in that perspective. I'm curious, Farres, how does it look when somebody comes to you? And this is a really, really common objection that we get, or I won't say objection, but conversation that we have, if somebody's giving away doing free quotes, then how do you pitch it so that you're charging for it, so that they know that they're comparing apples to apples, you know what I mean? Like, because they're not. Like typically if you're putting together these project proposals, and someone's giving a free quote, it's like comparing apples to bananas. We interrupt this podcast today to talk to you very quickly about Tradie Web Guys content creation program. That program has been designed specifically for trade-based organizations as a way that you guys as trade business owners can start creating content that enables you to engage better with your customers and your potential customers. It will enable you to build trust and build rapport, because what you're doing is you're investing in educating them. Biggest problem that we see with our customers today is that they're not regularly updating their websites. And that's a problem because, first of all, the search engines are looking for that. And second of all, potential customers are also looking for it. Tradie Web Guys content creation program has been specifically designed to help you get regular, relevant content on your website consistently every month. We know that it's hard when you're out there on the tools, and we know that sometimes you don't always have the time to be able to do these things yourself. So we're taking it off your hands for you. It's a service that we're offering for you guys. We want to make sure that you're getting this done because we know how important it is. Anyway, head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/content, fill in the form, and one of our representatives will come back to you.
You know what? I really feel like people respect the company more when they're saying, look, we're doing something of value, something of high quality. There's a price associated with it.
Yeah.
And I think that they respect us more when we do that, and it kind of discredits the competitor that's doing it for free.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, when we show them example scopes of work with what we're trying to build, and when they compare it to their free estimates, usually, the two products alone speak, our work speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And we tell clients all the time. I mean, really what the design does is it allows us to put together permit ready drawings. And that's really the first step of your project. Like oftentimes we have to get building permits. So you have to have building ready drawings.
Yeah.
And if that's the first step, why are we going about it backwards? Right. So anybody that's actually going to spend 100, 200, 300 grand understands this. And if they don't, they're just time wasters, and we run away from them.
Yeah. It's interesting because we just recently put, and this is a conversation that's, that I think happens a lot with a lot of our building clients or people that do project work. They'll get a lot of potential customers that come to them that just aren't ready at all to have that conversation with them at that point. Like they haven't got things like they haven't got their a council approval. They haven't got all these things in order. They haven't got any drawings done. Blah blah blah. All this kind of stuff, and they wanted to have a conversation around pricing when they haven't even got all the stuff in order to do it. And that's also a qualifier, right? So one of the things we just recently did for a client is we put a form on the website which asked them for these questions, and it said, have you done this? Have you got this? Have you got this? Have you got this? Blah blah blah. And then once the customer gets that form submitted, then they can look at it and they go, oh, okay, well they've got this, they got this, they got this. They haven't got this. We can help them with this. Let's steer them at least in the right direction. So we're making it valuable to them in the sense that, okay, we're helping them through the process. So, we've got a better chance of when they are ready that they will engage us.
Yeah, you know what? I really feel like having in-house design, in-house architectural technologists or architects goes a long way and is a big part of stop working for free, because you start controlling the buyer journey from the very beginning. Yeah. Right? So really the only disqualifier, if you will, is if they didn't have financing ready, as an example. Mm-hmm. But what we do in that case is we tell them come to the office. That way we're investing a little bit of time, but not a lot of time, right? Because if you're going out on the road, that could be hours. Right. But really where the design comes into play is controlling the prospective client's buying journey from the beginning, because everybody's got a contractor, everybody's got a builder. And if these guys are going to this architect or that architect or this interior designer, then you're opening yourself up to potentially having these clients go elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So for us, it's not necessarily a disqualifier if they don't have plans or whatnot, but if they're not ready to move forward on design, then it's a big red flag for us. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So in terms of how you deliver on this, are there any specific tools or frameworks or, technologies or, solutions that you guys use to help streamline that process?
So we use Salesforce, and I don't really recommend Salesforce to anybody. It's a beast. We paid a lot of money. We paid a lot of money to customize it. And I think we pay something like 30, 40 grand a year for it. The problem is like, once we're so committed to it. Yeah, so committed. The reason why we went on Salesforce is because a number of years ago, we had this big dream about franchising everywhere, and Salesforce kind of enabled us to do that. However, there's some cool tools out there. I don't use them, but I'm sure that they work really well from what I hear from other people in the industry, like the typical Builder Trend or Co-Construct. Yeah. But what we use really well and is accessible to really anybody is Google Drive. Yeah. Like Google Drive. Google is amazing. I love Google. Google's, everything to us. Yeah.
As we sit here and collaborate on a Google Doc across the world together.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's so true. It's great, for collaboration, for it to be while it being in the cloud. I highly suggest that, and it's very affordable. Super affordable.
And so when you're talking about, I suppose, creating these, what did you call them again? What do you call them? Job outlines or something?
Scopes of work.
Scopes of work. How is that delivered to the client? Like, is that in a digital format? Is that a SaaS product, or is that is that like a PDF, or how does that look?
No, so we currently have this pretty sophisticated Excel program that's got like multiple tabs, thousands of line items, macros, all that. Yeah. But we're actually currently working on building it out into a web application, so it becomes a little bit more automated, a little bit more efficient. Yeah. But currently right now it's an Excel tool.
Okay, cool. So when you give that to the client, you give it to them in like an Excel document, or do you give it to them in like a spreadsheet printed, or how does it look?
Yeah, so it's just printed. It's printed, but we've recently actually incorporated DocuSign. Yeah. So that we're really trying to eliminate paper, and that's kind of like our new big thing. Because we've been wasting a lot of paper. It's actually very sad. Yeah. But we're moving completely digital with DocuSign. But because the great thing about it now is like we don't need to wait 2 or 3 days to meet with the client again to sign it, but we could just kind of send it over email and they can get it done.
So for the listeners out there, DocuSign is basically a digital document signing program. So you can send customers a form and they can sign it with their computer or their phone or their iPad or whatever it is. It's brilliant. Interestingly, actually, only yesterday I saw a comment in the group from Nathan Cooper, and he was saying that some of the local authorities here in Australia, I'm not sure if it's the same in Canada, but they're going back to physical signatures. They're moving away. They don't accept digital signing anymore, which I thought was interesting and kind of concerning.
Mm-hmm. Really, that's unfortunate.
I guess fraud, maybe, or I guess there's people. It's not holding up in court, or I don't know why they would be going that way. Maybe I should research that.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
But yeah, no, I mean, we're certainly entirely paperless at Tradie Web Guys, and it's fantastic because, I mean, realistically as well, everything we do is online. We've got clients all over the world, and it's not like we're going to send them a PDF proposal when they're on the other side of the planet. Like, forget it. Like, everything's just done through email. They accept it with a digital signature, click the button, bang, done. I think that's the way the world's going, and I think for the better part, it certainly suits a lot of businesses. Perhaps from what I've learned yesterday, not all businesses, but I was sort of surprised to see it regressing in that area.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, in terms of key takeaways, like what's a good framework that you could leave with the audience out there in terms of stop working for free and getting paid for your time?
Create a lot of templates. Like a lot of the work that everybody's doing is redundant. Like it's the same line items. The same presentation. Like create templates for yourself. Reduce inefficiencies by creating the same amount of work. If you're building a scope of work or a project outline in Microsoft Word from scratch every time, you're not being efficient.
Right. So when you say create a template, I'm guessing you're talking about, okay, have a template for kitchen renovations, have a template for bathroom renovations, have a template for home first floor additions, second story extensions, all that kind of stuff, and then just customize and modify the minor details, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Like these prospects, they expect you they want to see a lot of upfront value from you.
Yeah.
They want to see you do all this work to really try to earn their business.
Yeah.
So the key is make it look like you're doing a lot of free work without doing free work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, creating these templates is a big part of how you can do that.
There's a lot of, I don't know how relevant it is to it probably is relevant to the build, like to those bigger proposals. Like we use proposal software, and there's actually tools out there which will do that. So say, for example, if you get if we get a client comes through that, wants a website, and we've got it within our proposal software, there's a couple of templates that we can use, which based off the conversation I have with them, I can select that template. I can customize a few of the things within it, but the bulk of it's done. The things about, who we are, what the job is, what it delivers, what it entails, what the process is, what we need from them, frequently asked questions, all that kind of stuff. Like that's all stuff that's, typically generic. That doesn't need to be customized. What needs to be customized is the specifics around the conversation we had. So, how many pages the website might be, or, do they need content created, all that kind of stuff. And that's basically done. And that drastically reduces the amount of time, you'd spend. Like typically I would have been spending half a day on a proposal like that, maybe more, whereas now you can kind of bang it out in, half an hour, get it all prepared and send it off. And it's exactly the same. It looks professional. They can open it, in their email, and it's like, wow, this is incredible. It's got videos embedded in there. It's got all this kind of crazy stuff. So there's heaps of tools available that can do that kind of stuff. We use one called Better Proposals, but there's dozens and dozens of them. I know a lot of the building products do have the ability to send out quotes, but I don't know if it's to the scale that we're talking about, Farres. I think like some of those are quite generic, and they're like, like a one-pager kind of thing.
Yeah, like you know what, a lot of contractors are still using like a QuickBooks or like a FreshBooks where they build like their own quick little macros, and typically they're like one pagers, right? But I haven't been able to see a tool out there yet that kind of templates these proposals. I mean, I'm not really sure what Buildertrend or Co-Construct or some of these ones there do, or if they have that. We've never really had to use it, but that's one of the reasons why I'm building out our Excel tool into a web application, just to kind of take advantage of that.
Yeah,
but you know what? Like, because we're marketers first, like the guys that started, like me and my partners were marketers, right?
Yeah.
So like we took a very marketer approach to building this business. You know?
Yeah. I think it's a smart way to look at it too. For any business, that is not necessarily like you can be the best builder in the world, the best plumber in the world, but if you can't market yourself, then you'll never make any money. So
nobody will ever know about you, right?
Exactly right.
you can generate business and figure out operations, but you can't really figure out operations without generating business because there's nothing to feed it.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
All right, cool, man. Well, look, let's wrap this one up. That episode was Stop Working for Less, Time is Money. Stop Working for Free, Time is Money. That was the second episode in the Creating $1 Million Design Build Business. For the listeners out there, I'm talking to Farres Elsabbagh. Farres is from Ottawa General Contractors over in Canada. And we're going to come back with the following and final episode, which is going to be called Building a Model That is Scalable. You happy to wrap that one up?
Yeah, all good, man. Thanks for having me.
Rock and roll. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.